March was Women's History Month, and to celebrate, all my reviews for the month of March celebrated the work of women filmmakers. From the foundational to those at the front lines of the feminist film movement to cult films and to indie darlings. Now that the month is over, I wanted to pick some of my favorites, however, I do have a bit of a confession to make. There is one film that I watched that month that I didn't review, and it did make the list. If you like this content and want more, please consider subscribing for 50-second movie reviews every weekday and additional longer content as well. I also stream on Twitch where we talk movies, play games, and just kind of have fun. Links are going to be in the description for everything. Alright, let's get started. This film from Kelly Reichardt is about Wendy, played by Michelle Williams, who is traveling to Alaska with her dog Lucy. While stuck in Oregon due to her car malfunctioning, she is arrested for shoplifting. When she's finally released from jail, she returns to the grocery store where she was picked up and finds her dog is missing. Much like Reichardt's other films, the characters have a very understated and quiet quality to them, even at their most emotional, and Reichardt's restrained direction emphasizes these nuances. More than being about the relationship between Wendy and her dog, which is still a very important part of the film, it's just as much about how damn hard it is to be poor and homeless in America. Things we take advantage of, like needing an address and a phone number to basically do anything. The country being built around and for cars, and that money must sometimes be spent to make money, or even sometimes that you just need to spend time when you don't have it. In the film, Wendy's own cash in pocket is kind of our ticking clock, as we see every small thing she must do for herself and to find Lucy eating away at her balance like a steady and inevitable erosion. Reichardt is one of my favorite directors working right now, and other than her other film First Cow, I would say that this is a great introduction to her style and storytelling. Claire Denis is an outstanding French African director, most well known for Beau Travail, which is arguably the best film of the already stacked year of 1999. With White Material, Denis tackles the slow and inevitable death of colonialism in an unnamed African country while it falls into civil war. Isabelle Huppert plays Maria, who owns a coffee plantation with her ex-husband and father and son. She attempts to keep her operation going while her workers leave and the towns become dangerous and vacant. Denis represents many different facets of colonialism. The father is kind of a stately and part of the old guard type of colonialist, while Maria and her son are both African-born white but cannot call France home, nor can they really be considered African. Maria is constantly attempting to undermine the danger of the Civil War to everyone around her, including the locals that are attempting to flee. While it's easy to write off her persuasions and actions as merely self-interest, it could also be from a certain sense of hubris, one that as a European African she has more informed and holistic understanding of the situation, when in reality she has no idea. It's a tense and impactful film, and one that builds off of Denis' own experiences growing up as a French white woman in West Africa. Compared to Beau Travail, which is more like a poem than it is a film, this is more accessible, but it still shows why Denis is a great filmmaker. This film from Catherine Breillat is a very hard film to watch. It's kind of extreme, but also very honest. Two sisters, one 15 and attractive and the other 12 and slovenly, are on vacation when the older sister falls in love with an Italian college student. They explore sexuality in this film with a frankness and unturning eye, nearly always while the younger sister lies in a bed nearby. It's a film that's sometimes accused of being misandrist, but I really didn't see it. The discussions that are had and the events that occur are realistic. The anger and disgust that I see is not in its exaggeration, but in Breillat's unwillingness to be less than honest. Sure, men can prey upon women's vulnerabilities. They can also be products of women who were themselves preyed upon. And women can become vulnerable because they convince themselves that they're getting what they want or that they need to be vulnerable. The film explores the murky gray area that's kind of between childhood and adolescence, from cultural and societal views of teen sex and the concept of virginity. Fat Girl ends in a way that is shocking, angry, and transgressive. And I'm gonna do a little bit of spoilers here, so just skip to this time code if you don't want the ending spoiled for you. The ending kind of reminded me of the final girl trope of slasher and horror films. Not only in execution, but in principle as well. The virginal and socially awkward is allowed to survive, while the promiscuous and, one could argue, bullying are punished. This is one of the most impressive films I watched this month, and also one that I really have a hard time recommending. The discussions and interactions feel very real, lived in, and speaking from experience. Not just for, I assume, Braillard, but also those that have had those awkward memories and perhaps even traumas that come from adolescent sexual exploration. I don't hide that my favorite working director currently is Celine Sciamma, so I wanted to end the month by talking about one of her films. Girlhood is about Mariam, a young 16-year-old black girl in the poor suburbs of Paris. Due to a caustic home life and lack of scholastic opportunities, she joins 3 girls in their gang. There she finds camaraderie, pride, and purpose in her new friends. Sciamma has set up these girls to be empathetic, compassionate, and real. They're tough when they need to be or want to be, but with Mariam, and likewise us, the audience, we see them as fun, supportive, and uplifting. While there is some service given to the racial aspects of the characters while they're in Paris, we are mostly in the public housing sections with Mariam, and it's here that we see that the film is not about race, poverty, class, or even opportunity. It's about gender dynamics. There's a masterclass of a scene that starts the movie. The girls are leaving American football practice, an aggressive and beautifully shot montage, and they are ebullient and lively, but as they start to pass by more and more men, the group is cleaved more and more of its members, and they grow more timid, protective, and quiet. We can sense within the first 5 minutes of the film how gender is at play in these characters' world. Beyond that, humiliation of the girls is done in ways that are inherently defeminizing. One girl's hair is shaved. Girls lose a fight when they have their shirts removed and are bared and shamed in front of a mixed gender group of onlookers, while Mariam is slut-shamed for having sex while in a loving relationship. Likewise, they're lifted up by men for engaging in certain behaviors, dressing very effeminately or sexy, acting out violence against other women, and staying in their place. There's an especially heart-wrenching scene near the end of the film where we find out the full extent that Mariam is willing to mask her gender and femininity for purely survival reasons. Sciamma is, in my opinion, the best filmmaker working right now, male or female, and Girlhood is just another demonstration of her wholly unique and feminine lens. This romantic comedy from performance artist Miranda July was the most unique movie I watched this month. It tells interweaving and thematically connected stories about the impending digital age and our attempts to make connections with people. The story isn't masked in satire, parody, or farce. Instead, July uses dialogue that can be poetic or prosaic, romantic or lewd, sharp or meditative. I rarely see enough film that just feels so purposeful in everything it does. Miranda July plays Christine, a contemporary artist that uses photos and videos of other people's experiences to narrate fictional, tender moments between them. She attempts to form a relationship with Richard, played by John Hawkes, who is going through a divorce and sharing custody of his 2 sons, 14 and 6. While all this is happening, 2 neighborhood teen girls are flirting with a man that works with Richard via lewd messages he hangs on his window. While that is happening, another young neighbor girl buys appliances and products from department stores to keep in her hope chest for when she finally marries. And while all that is happening, an art curator is attempting to find and define contemporary art for an upcoming show themed around the internet. And while that is happening, the youngest of Richard's sons is having puerile and innocent sex chats with a stranger online. All of this sounds lurid, shocking, and tasteless, and I guess it is a little bit, but much like comedy works in those ways, so does this film, but it's not really a shock comedy. It can be funny and really, really tender at the same time. The film is centered around 2 main principles: finding and capturing whatever love and intimacy is, and how to do it within the emergent digital age. While it was commonly thought that the internet and expanding communication technology would bring us closer together and make us more global, instead, it has made us more detached and unable to create the bonds and imprints we desperately need. These are ideas that feel perhaps less revelatory now, but this film came out in 2005, before Web 2.0 really even became the norm. Miranda July was able to see forward enough to take those principles and apply it to a unique and comedic story. Even the most daring and, one might argue, reprehensible parts of the film are really, really tender. I have a feeling this is a film that will either resonate immensely with you or will feel like typical indie musings. For me, it was the former. I found it funny, sweet, and poetic. I'm the kind of person that if someone does something unique, I'm really willing to give it a try and really give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm glad that I let myself get immersed in July's vision. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found a film that you are interested in seeing, and hopefully you do see. There are so many women filmmakers, and I only covered 22 this month, and there's plenty that I didn't get to. I'd love to hear what your favorite movie from a female film director is, or who your favorite female filmmaker is. And let me know if you've seen any of these movies and what you think of them. Again, if you like this content, please subscribe. I post a 50-second review every day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.